Right, what's going on everybody? Now today we are going to show you the barbell hip thrust and go through some of the fundamentals that you should be doing and not doing. Okay, this is an exercise that we see a lot, that we use a lot in Sculpt. It's a great exercise for the lower body and the glutes, and especially if you are a female on one of our female programs, you probably want to grow your glutes, and it is one of the most common exercises. But we see a lot of common mistakes. So today we're going to show you a few of those common mistakes, what you can do to try and adjust it, to try and make sure your form is perfect, and for you to try and get the most activation and growth throughout the desired muscles. Right, so the first thing and the first problem that we often see is the setup position. Now the first thing is I want you to either get a bench that's adjustable and try and ideally get it on a slight decline, okay? This is enough, just like I've got it set up here, but quite a lot of the time with beginners, what we just use is a big heavy wall ball, as it's easier for them to set up. Now, jumping under the bar from the starting position, the first thing I want you to think about and make sure you're doing correct is your back position on the bench, okay? This is the first issue that we see, is the setup. It's not even when they're doing the first rep. Now, it tends to be that people either do one of two things. You either go too high up and there's too much pressure on your sort of mid to lower back area and you're just going to hyperextend, and that's what we're going to talk about later in the video. Or they go far too low and use this as a neck rest, okay? So those are your two mistakes. What I want you to think about is if you were doing a lat pull down or shrugging your shoulders and you were trying to tense your back muscles as much as possible, you would almost make a V shape, upside down V. What I want you to think about is getting those shoulder blades tucked and driven against the bench, okay? Very similar to how you would keep your shoulder blades flat on a bench press. Now once these are back, you are pretty much in the perfect back position with those shoulder blades against the bench to actually use your hips to move the weight rather than your lower back, your upper back, and you can just completely forget and eliminate those muscle groups. So that is mistake number one. Right, now when you've set up your back position and you're confident with that, the second thing, common mistake, is feet position and stance. Now, what I would say is, general rule of thumb, you want to be pretty similar to your squat stance, okay? But when it comes to this, I don't want to see your feet too narrow, okay? So again, try and think about being in a squat stance and not being too close together, okay? Because we want to keep those knees forced out to try and externally rotate and engage the glutes. The second thing with that is when you are actually lifting the weight, and I'm just going to do one quick rep for you here, we don't want to see those knees coming in together, okay? You wouldn't do it on a squat, and I don't want you to do it on a hip thrust. So again, I'll do a bad rep here, letting the knees cave in, and this is called valgus knee. Time I killing my game. Okay, so don't let the knees get forced inwards. I want you to focus on imagining you had a partner with the hands on the outside of each kneecap and you are actively, ever so slightly, pushing against those knees to force them out. That's going to engage and fire up those glutes, keep that external rotation. That is the magic of a band, okay? The band, you've seen them all on Instagram flying around with loads of Instagram models. It is not anything great, but it is great for making sure you are engaging your glutes, okay? It's not going to gain you 10 inches on your glutes and your bum in 2 seconds, but it is going to make sure that you still can do that. So that is a great way. You can put the band across the knees or just above on the thighs, and that's going to keep you forcing those out and stop that valgus knee from happening. Okay, so the third issue we see, and I'm going really to town on the feet position here, is not having your shins vertical when you do the reps. So obviously from here, you've got your back position set up, bar is comfortable on the hips. What we tend to see is people having their feet far too away from the body and not actually being able to get a vertical shin position. So when they're extending here, it's still quite far away and you're not actually getting a full range of motion and using your glutes, okay? So what I want you to think is move your feet a little bit closer back. So imagining you are trying to create a table with your body, okay? So when you are hip thrusting up, imagine you were trying to rest a drink on your stomach, okay? So when you're going to go here, drive through the heels, your shins should be fully vertical, okay? And this should be your top position here, okay? So the best thing that I can say to get around that, because that is probably the most difficult one to tweak by yourself, is grab a partner and ask them how vertical your shins are, or try and set up an iPhone side by side and just try and be your own PT with that one. Try and be hypercritical on yourself and try and make sure the angle of the shin is vertical before the flexion of the knee comes across your body. Okay, so that's point number 3. Right, so you've fixed your feet, you've fixed your back position. Now the most important problem, the most common problem, and the most dangerous problem that you see in the barbell hip thrust is hyperextending the lower back or lordosis. Okay, so what I want you to see, what I want you to look at here is when I do a rep. Okay, I'm in position here, my back position is okay, my feet, my stance is okay, I've got my feet close enough to my body to make sure the shins are vertical, but when I'm extending up with the hips, I'm fully letting my back hyperextend, okay? My eyes are coming up and looking at the ceiling here. Now, what I want you to do for a quick fix, everybody thinks that you should be finishing looking directly above at the ceiling, okay? Now you can look at the ceiling, but I want you to pick, imagine you're looking out on a beach and there's a horizon. Now in front of me, I don't quite have that nice scenery, I have the rig in front of us here, but I want you to pick a spot that is in between your legs, that is maybe that sort of distance in height. So right here now, looking at the dip station, looking at the pull-up bar in front of us, and I'm going to keep my eyes there. Now what this enables me to do is, it's going to stop me from hyperextending that lower back. And what I'm going to think about doing is tucking my pelvis underneath my body. Okay, so you get the same range of motion with your glutes without hyperextending that lower back. So look at the difference of these 2 reps. The first one, come up here, glutes, 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 no extension, hyperextension of the lower back. Now the bad rep, I'm going to do a bad rep again. I'm coming up, flimsy, all the way up, loads of pressure on my lower back, I can feel it. And all you're doing there is you're asking for an injury. So I'll do that one more time. One good rep. Tensing your core, holding loads of air in your abdomen. Nice brace. Looking straight forward, tensing the glutes, not letting my knees cave inwards. Control it back down. Okay, and one more bad rep. Full hyperextension, flimsy legs. And it's very, very dangerous on your spine. So, I've went a little bit ham on that and gave you loads of teaching points with the barbell hip thrust. What I suggest you do is try and take some of the points away. You might actually only be doing 1 wrong, okay? You could be nailing 3 out of 4, but those are the most common mistakes we see in the gym. If I can make sure that you nail 1 of them, it would be the last point, okay? You do not want to be hyperextending your lower back. You don't want to be firing it up, putting loads of blood in the muscle before you're training, because you are only asking for an injury. Okay, but apart from that, that is a barbell hip thrust. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Give the video a like, give it a thumbs up, share it with someone that's perhaps needing some help with the barbell hip thrust. And if you have any questions, comments, I will be answering them in the comments below. Okay, over and out. That is all.